Welcome to Speak Sex. I'm Eurydice. I am an artist and writer from the island of Lesbos. I have written books with Scribner, Virago Press about female sexuality. I used to write the Sex Files column, and my multimedia art practice is also on the theme of women's bodies and their objectification, their subjectivity, the duality that we've inherited from our parents and culture and patriarchy that separates the body from the mind, from logos, from the things that we value. And my effort to bring them back together and unite them and find the place where the body doesn't come with shame is what has created this podcast. So thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting me as your Jolt Radio sex whisperer.
That's a great tagline.
Yeah. Today's guest is Alex Nunes. She's a fellow artist, woman, DJ, podcaster, photographer, and was my next door studio neighbor for some years at Fountainhead. So I'm excited to have you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Always happy to keep it in the Jolt family.
Yeah. So Alex, I want to hear from you a little bit about your journey as both as a woman and as an artist. You know, where does your body, your gender, your femme power or lack come into your work and your thinking and your life choices? And where are you at right now?
Wildly loaded
that?
question.
Yes.
Like attack
Please.
one angle of it at a time.
Loaded.
Immediately when you were speaking, I thought of mixed media collage work that I do of actually incorporating the female body throughout advertising, vintage advertisements, just exploring the male gaze and how that affected. I started studying graphic design and communications and advertising for my undergrad. And so I started exploring how the media looks at the body, how we look at the media, and how we're so like in this cycle. So I kind of like chop and mix what I've been seeing and add my element of glitter, pom-poms, coffee,
Yes.
tequila, whatever.
Yes, you do.
What have you. And then as far as, I guess, like how do I even tackle the other element of that? Being a female artist, painter, I have a kind of gender-neutral name. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic on how people are receptive to the work if they don't know me, or how they approach like, oh, this is XYZ's work, blah, blah, blah. So I'm in that sense, it's been interesting to see how people react to that. I think it's an interesting dynamic being a female artist, especially like putting the vulnerability of your work. I'm not physically represented in my work. There's no photos of me, but you're physically putting yourself out there with like studio visits or like having people come by. It's so personal that it's kind of wild it's like a therapy session. So it's like you're not only physically vulnerable, but, you know, actively vulnerable within the community and exploring the vulnerability of the female body within the work. So
yeah, it's a kind of like creative striptease that you do when you open up your studio and then people walk in.
I always compare it to kind of like the zoo. Like you pass by cages and we're supposed to be like, this is our little natural fake little environment.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
Yeah, it's always just such a weird dynamic of the thing. I mean, I've been doing this for so many years and I never get used to that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the art center on Lincoln Road for 7 years.
That's a little more difficult than transparent walls.
Right.
That's,
Everybody, that was the deal. You know, you got a great break in rent, but it was all glass. And people walked through at all times. And I would get guys, I had a studio that was right across from a staircase. And there would be like guys above on the balcony, guys sitting on the steps. And you start wondering, speaking of the male gaze, how much of this is about the work? How much of it is about me? And, I became aware of what I'm wearing. Am I wearing underwear? Because like at the time I wasn't. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start wearing panties and I'm going to like dress more like gender
See, I wear
free,
like the Dickies
you do.
jumpsuit,
Right? Jumpsuits.
but I was making
right.
fun of. I was just talking with another female artist about. There's this Instagram series on Netflix on like Insta Famous, and they were talking about. I think they're called the Kaplan twins, and they're like twin painters that dress like sexy overalls and like. They're sisters, so the sexy dynamic really grosses me out because, like, I have a sister and I wouldn't pose or do half
twin
for that.
sisters?
Yes.
Wow.
So it's like super sexy
Super
painters,
sexy,
and
like
I'm like,
porn. Like
I was joking with this other
porn.
artist. I'm like, what the hell am I wearing? Because I'm wearing, you know, my time lapses aren't as interesting, but it's just like.
Do you have a twin sister?
No, I have a younger sister that I'm always with, but I just would never pose with her in a sexual manner. I just find that really a weird kind of fantasy of sisters. I just find that, I don't know, that's not.
Well, yeah, it's like doubly objectifying. And, you know, you take that relationship that's like so intimate, it's way beyond words, and you turn it into, you know, a spectacle for the, again, you know, to turn on the guys, and in exchange you get feedback.
Yeah, and so
likes?
that's why it's like a very
Followers?
strange, yeah,
I mean,
strange
what?
dynamic for like your studio process and like filming yourself. Because I do time lapses in the video, but like you're saying, I'm dressing really like
Right,
not,
that's what I learned.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I've learned
Which
that
I
because-
don't do naturally. Like, I like the body to be as free, you know, and naked and, you know, visible and acceptable. But yeah, exactly.
But
Because then
often,
you
like,
start wondering, like, will that person ever buy a piece of work, or are they just like hanging out there?
I think it's like as long as I've been practicing, I'm always in very industrial areas and usually working really late at night. So like it doesn't do me any good to show anything off. And I mean, unless you're like just doing it for your little selfie stick and then like you paint a fake painting, but like,
wow,
I don't know. That kind of.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. I didn't know it either. I mean, the work that's a whole different concept. But I mean, it's just like it was kind of funny. And then I got into this like K-hole of looking at other kind of process-based Instagram of like artists in studio, and they're like blow dried hair, and like there's no paint on the clothes. I'm like, this is not accurate. Like I don't. Well, maybe I'm not like I should have the Beyonce fan when I'm doing my time lapse paintings, but yeah, my Instagram doesn't look anything like that, unfortunately. But I'm like in the lower numbers, so that's probably why.
Yeah. Yeah, well, your Instagram is about the work,
Oh.
not the likes. Like, oh no, I didn't get enough approval.
Wild. So yeah, I've been in Miami. I met you my first Miami studio, fresh out of New York, from like 9 years in New York, and this Fountainhead I came in like 2016. Fell in love with your work.
Likewise.
We were across the hall from each other.
Yeah.
And then we were in some Catherine Meixell's women's show together. Mainly do like
I'm woman, hear me
I'm
roar.
woman, hear me roar.
I like that
Yeah,
term.
and I fell in love with your embroidery work. I'm such a hyper fan. But yeah, that work, that show specifically, I do a lot of embellished like 1970s, 1980s vinyl album covers, mainly with women looking at the camera in different suggestive poses, some with clothing, some not, and it's kind of just like activating these older images, but they're completely fresh.
From a feminist
And
place,
like yeah, and since these images are recycled and fashion often copies it, like people don't know how current the history of current fashion is
Right.
just so recycled. But
yeah, it's all recycled.
yeah,
But we forget and we start over. You know, it's really all being done. So
agree.
yeah, and you know, it behooves us to take a few years and study first.
well, that's
Yeah.
what makes it so interesting as an image maker. That idea that it's always been done, because I'm sure people go in your studio and they're like, "Have you heard of XYZ? This reminds me of that." So like even with that in the back of your head, like there is chance to make new and exciting things, but be conscious of the source that you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's like a
Well,
sad.
I mean, I always say, you know, I claim it that, you know, I saw an exhibit by Gada Mer and I was like, no way, you know, and it actually, I lost a lot of buyers and collectors and galleries when I switched to the stitch, because I used to paint or do, you know, graphite charcoal big drawings. So, but, you know, I had grown up with that. You know, I did it like on the porch with my mom and my grandma and my aunts, and I was a little girl. So the emotional power, you know, on me of that work and what it meant politically, you know, as a woman, to like take the dowry, you know, that was in the trunk that's supposed to come with me on my wedding to the husband's household and put it out it's such an exhibitionist, vulnerable, intense place to be. That it just, it changed everything. It was like a high for me. Yeah. And then also the stitch is very meditative, like stitch your way through time. So that was like a totally different experience of practicing art. So yeah, and I've stuck with it. Because like you, I have an illustrative, aspect to the work.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, the stitch makes it just a touch more 3D.
Yeah.
Right?
I use a lot of, with my mixed media paper works, like a lot of collage of magazines and things like that. And so it's a nice hand. I do that with I would compare it to my chalk pastel stuff that's super visceral and really quick, and it's just more tactile experience, I think.
Yeah, and it allows you to play with all these issues, of how we're taught to see, and the definitions were given as a given, when we become part of the world early on.
So where were we? So where was I in that 4-part question? I don't know.
Well, you haven't told me anything personal at all.
Oh no. We're just doing the CV right now.
Yeah.
But I am originally from Miami. My father's Cuban, my mom's American. Born, raised, and then left out of high school, and then now I'm here and practicing artist over in Little Haiti and Deering. So that's the CV. We can jump on personal. I don't know how personal you want to get.
I want to get as personal as you're willing.
I'm ready for it. I was a little nervous because I was like, I agreed to the show, and then I'm like, hold on, what is she gonna ask? I need demos.
No. Yeah, that would be good for the video part.
Yeah,
right.
More likes.
So, well, let's start with Miami, which is kind of like an interesting choice for a woman artist to come back to, because I feel like it's a very male town, right? And a very sexualized from the point of view of the male town.
I felt that way about New York too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
New
a male
York
painter,
too.
I felt it was the scene.
Totally.
Yeah. But Miami is I don't know, next level. The weather is conducive to the lack of clothing.
Yeah.
And then
making out.
Yeah, making out. It's like destination vacation spring breaker. It's kind of like the side piece. It's not like your serious girl. It's the girl on the side, because the snowbirds come here for December to February or what have you. And I don't know. It's an interesting time to be here because I haven't been here since I want to say 2006, something like that. Really been here. And the arts community is completely blown up. And I think there's a frustration with the local artists. And I heard you guys just speaking about this. You're coming in town, we're catering to the people that are out of town. They shit all over the town, and then they leave. Someone was comparing it to seagulls. And I feel like there is a really great community that is resulting off of that kind of frustration. People are banding together to try to make this a more annual thing, and
continues.
Continue.
Exactly.
And I see new collectives forming, and
right, exactly.
The strength of the other communities, like Fountainhead Bakehouse, Art Center, programs like that can only grow and help the city. And I think, it's really different from New York in the sense that the gallery, it's just there's no cluster. You're driving everywhere and you go to one thing, so it's really hard, especially with the gentrification of what communities can we afford to be in? What communities are we being pushed to? So, between the displacement, the real estate boom, all of that, it's really difficult. I find it's really difficult to centralize the
agree.
whole thing. And I think
it's
that's
very
really
difficult.
The hardest part of the community is actually physically getting together. And that's what I've noticed, the biggest struggle I've been having with here. Physically just driving. I relied on mass transit and bicycling around for... And now I'm screaming on the expressway. So
yeah.
So
well, I've made a conscious decision to stay on the beach, and
good for you.
Fountainhead was the only exception, and I didn't like it. I loved it being in the tribe, in the community, but I just felt, because I came as a kind of snowbird, I bought a place. Actually, I like sold the book, took the advance, bought a place at the Decoplage because I had to get away from the winter in New York. And then when I became pregnant, I just didn't want to raise my daughter in the West Village year round. So I stayed longer and longer. But I love the energy of Miami Beach and South Beach, and the people, and kind of like transient sense of coming and going. All of that keeps me from being bored or feeling static. But yeah, once the art center sold, all of those artists became homeless. And there was a brief period where we were given a lot of free studios, to promote areas. So, like, I would have free studios in the design district for a number of years, and I would just like open it every second Saturday or whenever the art night was. Or I had a schoolhouse before it was demolished. It was like abandoned, and I got to work. I had the whole schoolhouse to myself. So, and in Wynwood, I had spaces for free for a while before the full development, but all of that has dried out. So we just gotta find each other. We gotta like do it, and I think that's good. It's more organic. Like, we don't need an organized developer or promoter or even a non-prof that still has a board in charge. We can just do it on our own.
No, really, it's just a cluster of artists.
Yeah.
I use those examples mainly as that they are collective communities that you can easily go and see like a group of artists.
Right.
But outside of that, there's other collectives that you can go to and visit.
Right.
And I think where Angel is now, the 777 building, is a great alternative space.
Right.
But this is all with real estate developers. And that has been a huge issue. As long as I've been outside of grad school, I've had to pay for studios. And I've been like pushed out of pretty much like 2 places in Brooklyn. And there's a threat of leaving here. I mean, it's a constant conversation. And like short of buying something, I'm amazed to hear that they were giving you free space. That's really awesome. But it is that sense of impermanence that's really difficult to like for you to make work. It's like, how long am I going to be here?
Yeah, true. Again, I mean, it's a choice. It's a choice we make. I kind of like taking agency back. So as much as it was, super cozy to have like a reduced rent and be in the middle of Lincoln Road and have people, I raised my kid there. But I do like having, like having you here now. That's, our conversation. Where this is our own community, and the listeners are part of it, and there is no one else. That's just us, comes because we want to be here, and we want to talk to each other, and we want people to hear it. And there's something really beautiful, I think, authentic and organic. Nobody's making any money. Nobody's like, there's nothing. We're not trying to get anybody to like buy our work or, like our photos or whatever. It's just real. We want people to hear and be part of it and, and make like a bigger conversation. And I think you do that with your podcast, The Sunday Painter, which is inspiring for me as a more recent podcaster. Because it comes from the same, authentic place. It's very, it's not like high tech media. I think it's old media, even though
it's like a mixtape. Yeah, it's pretty.
It's
pretty
mixtape.
old. Yeah,
right. Yeah. And it's just it feels so much more real. Like you can, it's like what we're doing. It's live. It's raw. We can go wherever we want it to go, right? And this is like our offering of truth. At the moment, where so much is like packaged and, custom edited and, right, and presented through all kinds of filters that make it very hard to know truth, starting like from reality TV to basically all of Instagram and Facebook.
Little sound bites of conversations.
Yeah.
Maybe we're the last generation that had like actual phone conversations. That's not a text-based kind of situation. Right. But I've totally like romanticized like the kind of like a community that you can form doing these one-on-one things, because it's like you run into people at like openings or whatever, and you're not necessarily having a full conversation, or a bar, other things come up, it's busy, but like I mean, I'm a total fan of, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm going like
taking
on
the time.
Yeah, I'm going on like 3 years of doing the show, and
Great.
I'm constantly learning. I'm never bored. It's just completely like an amazing way to grab music, like what you've just sent me. So basically, the show is talking to people and splicing in music that they're listening to in the studio. But mainly, it's just like talking to living
Getting to
contemporary
know.
artists.
Yeah.
Like a conversation of like what we're doing
Miami
right now.
creatives.
Yeah, and that demystifying that whole, there's a painting on the wall. What was that person's story? What's their bio? Like, these people are alive. Support living artists. This is a living artist that you should know about. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I find it at this moment revolutionary to do all kinds of things without being paid. Because so much, even like that whole concept of like being the influencer. I mean, how fake.
Yeah, but you're still getting paid to hawk that tea.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all so fake, and then we're in a moment where America has lost its understanding of truth because of, the president and the notion of fake news, which has become completely accepted, and the prevalence of the internet has kind of made that much more powerful, because it's one thing to say fake news, but everybody like respects whatever the New York Times, but it's another thing to say fake news, and you have Facebook and you have Twitter and you have countless sources of opposite versions of the news. So it becomes post reality, basically.
Even in real time, when you see like the fact checkers going across,
Right.
be like, this is a lie right now, and you're just like, how is this? But it doesn't really matter to some people what truth is, and that's kind of like where we are right now.
We've lost it because we've lost the assumption of trust.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So I do find it that I mean, as a woman, I used to think it's revolutionary that I always, charged for my writing, and I had all these like rules because women didn't get paid. But now I think it's actually even more empowering to do things just purely out of the heart, because so little of it is done this way, So like I have like a book club at the Betsy, and I have a writers group there, and I have a coven. I have all kinds of things. We're bringing each other together because we wanna be together, in truth, right, in consciousness. Which is what we're doing here right now.
Well, I think you're maximizing your time. Like you're spending time with the people that you want to springboard ideas off of. You care about them creatively, because I think you're so exhausted with like these multi-channels that are like throwing this information at you. People you don't want to be with, like places you don't want to go, people you don't want to support, that you want to like schedule like, all right, these 2 hours I'm going to be with really important people that are going to like
respect.
That's
all.
Yeah. Basically. And I think that's why it's like so important for, I mean, even bouncing ideas off of other women artists. And I do include a lot of women, like I would say it's a majority of my programming. And I just think like the perspectives are always different, and it's cool to like meeting you I would have never met you had you not been in Fountainhead. So I think there's definitely like paths cross for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like blessed to have like encounters, because like being uprooted and then trying to get thrown back in the community is something really difficult, especially with artists, because it's not like we
solitary practice.
Yeah, and you like see through bullshit, so it's not like you're gonna want to just jump into, I don't know. I feel like the social circle is a little bit more difficult to
superficial trappings,
because you're on multiple aspects, like you're looking through, I don't know, through various lenses. It's kind of your job to be like to
look deeper.
So it's you can't mess around with that, and I kind of like waded in, and like I don't know, it wasn't easy. Like a majority of my artist friends were in New York, so I was really scared about coming down here, and it like I was just so impressed, because like I really had no idea, other than my snowbird timing coming back down here, like what was going on, and whether that was like sustainable for my practice, and you know how it is being a lady.
I don't know that I know that. I think that may be one of those things I really have no clue about.
Yeah, I might be a little fuzzy about that.
Right. There aren't many, but I think that's one. Oh my God. I remember I was a kid and our next door neighbor taught me how to be a lady. I was like maybe 6. And my mom would send me next door and she would make me have like 20 books on my head.
Oh, God.
And walk tippy-toe. But the whole time I was like sneaking and reading the book while I'm doing this, like so out of body. Like none of these lessons took.
Oh, God. I did cotillion in Miami.
Oh, yeah. Cotillion. Yes.
I really
the ballroom
never
dancing
used any
at
of
the
those
surf
skills.
club.
No, it was in the Coral Gables Country Club, and we had to wear white gloves and leather bottom shoes, and we like did the foxtrot, the Lindy ballroom dancing, which is like really essential for a 13-year-old. Yeah, yeah. I don't think I've ever used any of those skills, and I have like the worst table etiquette, so I don't know. Did not.
Good for you.
Yeah. Good for me. Yeah, being a lady is really difficult, especially since I feel like I'm doing this whole like the duality of like me in the jumpsuit versus me going to an opening. So like somebody was joking yesterday because I was just covered in like dust and wearing my mechanic jumpsuit, and then like an hour later I'm in like red lipstick and a dress. I'm like, it'll be like you have to be completely like on both spectrums to kind of. I mean, I could just show up in my jumpsuit. I don't really think anybody cares anymore. But it's kind of like part of the whole machine of the. Going.
Yeah, well, you wear you in Rome, you do like the Romans, you just wear the appropriate costume so that it's not about you. That's my feeling, like
That's interesting.
I dress because I don't want to bring attention to myself as, pretending to be the outsider. Like, that's within you. But it's I think it's nice to kind of respect the look and, of the place where you enter.
Yeah, I would have stood out.
Yeah, you would have totally stood out.
Yeah.
And that would have been the point. So do you date? What do you do for love?
I'm single. I'm dating, and I'm not really enjoying that in Miami. I feel like it's really difficult. I've tried apps. I've deleted apps.
Oh, you have tried apps?
Yeah,
good. So what do you think about? I mean,
I've
in the sense of tell me about it.
I think they're a nightmare. I play them more like a video game, like going about. But I really never. I don't know. I'm on them, but I don't really. I think I use them more like if I'm really interested in somebody, you'll see who the connecting people are,
right,
and then
you
you'd
can go
ask,
on Facebook and look them up. Or,
well, no, like you see who a mutual friend is, and then you'll ask the mutual friend. Okay. I feel like that's a better gauge.
Okay.
But for most part, no, I haven't been dating. Like I've just been holding myself up in the studio. That's been like my days and nights have been there, not specifically for an end game of any kind, but just like I've been really focused the last couple months. The dating scene is difficult in Miami. I feel like I don't know. I guess New York, it's easier to like stumble downstairs and like run into people. Miami, you really have to go out of your way. The driving, and I live like pretty far south, so it's I don't know. The bar scene, I usually gravitate towards this area, and it's just I don't know. I'm not really into it.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's like a fresh...
But you're not asexual at the moment. You're
no.
just kind of...
I'm just... I don't know, floating
lingering.
Around. Yeah, lingering. Not asexual, no. I still... Yeah, I've been single for a while. I've dated, but like nobody serious and like in a very long while.
No one has caught your eye or kept it?
No. I wish I could
now
provide
I have to
you
matchmake.
Yeah, go for it. We'll do some moon conjuring.
Yeah.
No, I wish I could give you a better story or a better excuse. Or
that's a good story. I like that story because it's real, and it goes against like the grain of what's expected in Miami, where we're like jumping each other all the time. But also I think that it's a challenge for women who are aware, who are woke, who are feminist, however you want to call it. It is a challenge to date successfully and still be you, instead of like become someone else. Like you would date successfully if you could be absent,
Yeah,
like
and change more for yourself to whoever. Yeah. Well, I feel like
play that part.
When I was younger, I feel like I was more. I guess patient with my time. Now I kind of I'm just like if I'm not feeling it, I'm not gonna stick around.
Right.
So I feel like there's no, you put up with a lot less.
True. I mean, that is true. That one of the many problems of the dating apps is that it's very time consuming because you need to actually make the time and show up and get to know this new person before you even have a sense of whether
I don't want to
or
do
not-
that. I don't want to do any of
Yeah.
that. I hate the
Yeah.
whole first date conversation.
Right, and it's all self-advertising. So if you stay with it long enough, you'll find out actually maybe it was wishful thinking at best, or else just like lying. But it just, because people try to kind of paint the best picture of themselves they can in their way, and most of us are not very good at translating ourselves to a complete stranger. Right, so we make an assumption about what this person understands and what language is shared that often may be wrong. We may be talking a completely foreign language.
I find it really interesting the amount of fish pictures on dating apps. Like, for some reason in Miami, every man wants you to know that they can hold up a big fish next to them. And that's like one of the top 3 photos that I always see. In New York, I guess it was like the petting the drug tiger, everybody that went and like paid to do that. But
funny.
I don't know what it is about that. I don't think that
Well,
would.
see, again, they're not translating to the woman.
Yeah.
They're talking to other
I
men.
can provide.
It's like, dude, I'm a dude. John, do you have fish pictures?
No, never have.
Send a fish pic.
You don't catch the fish?
Nice marlin or a tuna.
Maybe like from the point of view of a heterodominant male.
I don't know.
That's hot.
That's interesting because I'd never
'Cause
thought of it like catering. I guess it would be impressive to other men, but I really don't give a
But
shit
not
if
to
you're
the
holding
women.
up a fish.
Right. Like, what's the girl doing while you're sitting there fishing, waiting for a fish
I mean,
to bite?
it's a little less repulsive than the gym kind of like lower angle torso kind of no, can't do it that. But the fish pics are really next level.
Well, also, again, like our relationship with the male body as an object of desire, and lust is very edited.
Yeah,
it's like the David, Michelangelo, which is puberty. But like extreme masculinity enters maybe more fluently into gay space because they're more comfortable with that than with women, because there's like a fine line between rapist physique, painful physique, like a body that would hurt you in bed, period, and attractive, male physique. But I think that guys just don't empathize enough to see how we might perceive, how like the women out there swiping or whatever would
throw a
see
puppy
those
in there.
pictures.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll swipe towards a puppy. I won't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I mainly include female, and I think you do as well. The female body in my work. I rarely use the man, and I think that's even. I mean, within our culture, a majority of the magazines are showing the female body, and now there's a shift towards like androgyny, so a little bit less of these like severe, chiseled forms that were like big guy, like Marky Mark dude in the '90s. So it's like, kind of going that way. I don't know how I got off on the fish pic tangent, but I think catering
like modes of masculinity and
and I think like as an artist, like you kind of have to like hold down, like you can't. And I think it like builds up layers. Like you don't really care what like catering to your audience. Like you're doing your point of view. Like I'm not gonna, because if all of your work looked like every like, person that walked up to it what they wanted to see, it wouldn't be your work. So I feel like the same thing translates to dating. Like I'm not gonna bend or mold or change or shift, and that's probably why I'm still looking. But I mean, like I
what
feel
are you supposed to talk about at that first date besides?
it's
this
like
is
your
what I do?
soundbite, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
bragging.
yeah. And,
devastating.
and then like show me pictures, and then let's talk about your work, and then it's been. I feel really like a disconnect with.
It's like
Well,
PR. Only you're
non-art-
supposed to be mating.
Yeah.
But you're not really mating. You're doing PR of yourself with like each other.
Yeah,
In an effort to find reason to like
seal the deal.
get
Second
naked.
date. Yeah,
Or go out. Yeah, I guess.
yeah.
And do the guys really want to get physical?
I mean, I've done a couple app dates, and I mean,
that's all?
Just a couple. Like the other ones that I've met up through were like through friends of friends. But I think I've met like maybe 2 guys off of, and both of them were total nightmare dates. Like one of them was like looking at his phone and answered a call and was like, "Yeah, I'm bored. What are you up to?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm leaving." Yeah. So I kind of stay away from that.
Yeah,
But
that's like disrespect for the human.
I left.
The human condition.
Yeah.
So fucking sad.
And then they texted me, "I'm sorry, do you hate me?" Da, da, da. And I just
wow.
blocked. I'm like,
No, I still love you.
yeah, come back.
I don't hate you.
The one that got
I
away.
loved you all along. Yeah. Yeah.
Tip to the men out there: don't answer your phone during the first 15 minutes of meeting somebody. It's just like hold it in. I don't care what the call is. Oh, my favorite part is that it was an ex of his that he said he was in love with, and we go meet up with her and her new boyfriend. And I'm like, what kind of date is this? Like, I don't. Yeah.
People can be so unconscious.
I think it was just like he needed like a warm body to go to something else with, and it just wasn't going to be that person. Yeah. It's a little,
Well,
little
if
fembot.
we have any advice to all of you guys and girls out there, it's like take a moment and be conscious.
Put your phone away.
Yeah, put your phone away. Be like in the moment.
Even friends of mine.
Be aware of
I've
like
scolded
where
friends.
you are.
I'm like, if we're having lunch, take it out. Put it away. Put it away. Yeah. I just think there's nothing like that's a huge pet peeve of mine. I don't know. I don't know how important your job is on social media or whatever you're doing. Like, I mean, you can take the time to learn 10 minutes about somebody and then decide that they suck and then put your phone.
Yeah, it's just good practice. Even like to not be tempted by distraction. You know, it's good for your work. It's good for meditatively. It's good for like finding your own self is to be able to, for whatever reason, put your phone away and just like commune with the moment and I think it gives people a voice that's their own, so they can speak up, for themselves without kind of like repeating stuff they hear or talking about something that they see, always kind of referring away from the self, but instead take a moment to like speak truth.
I think it's a good policy. Like you go to like museums or certain restaurants that don't let you use it. I'm like, thank God. I don't have to like back into somebody doing a selfie or something. I don't know. I don't know, especially with engaging with work. You just notice people, whether they come in your studio or openings, like, are they looking at the work first or they just like snap? So it's
I find that very interesting, actually, because I remember, once cell phones became prevalent, until cell phones became much more prevalent as cameras, the early years at the art center, people would come in and there would be no photographing. And actually people, if they had a camera, they would be like, is photography allowed? And I would be one of the few artists who would say yes, because like most would say no, as if people are going to photograph and then copy every single thing you do and become millionaires of like your idea that doesn't pay the rent. No. But they took much longer to engage. To talk about each piece, to ask questions, about every piece,
with or without the phone,
before the phone, to stay, there was like a zen, artsy zen energy that happened because we all were like wanted to be there. Mm-hmm. We were all kind of like wired by this energy, and the phone mediates that. So it mitigates the experience because people have this sense that they can see more because they'll take photos and then theoretically
you want to look
go
at it later.
home,
Yeah, that never
right?
happens.
But you take so many that you never take the time to actually go back and think about each photo. Come on. No. Eventually, like some years later, you delete them all because you need space in your memory or something. And that's the end. So you've denied yourself the real-time experience for the sake of like future experience or for the sake of like keeping the memory, holding on to the to like that moment, but you haven't experienced the moment for the sake of holding on to the moment, which eventually you were not going to hold on anyway, because there are just too many fucking moments to hold on to, because like there is no discrimination. You want to hold on to every single moment of everything you ever do.
Yeah. And if you're going through something like an open studios, and it might be really difficult to.
They
let's
take
say-
so many photos, and they
Well-
walk in, take the photos, and go next to studio.
I'm into, like, if I want to remember an artist's name later, I'll take a picture of the wall text and then the picture of the work and go back. But I mean, like, I've seen people, like, go around and take, like, the whole show.
Everything,
Just
yeah.
take a picture of everything in the show. Like,
everything.
doing
But
a
and they do
catalog?
not stop. That's the thing. You can take the pictures, absolutely.
It's the
But,
same
like,
thing with,
stop,
like-
take a moment,
Yeah.
enjoy it. Oh, hi, Pepe. our resident dog, John's dog. I think he wants to go out.
No, he's good.
It's just showing off. He wanted a soundbite.
Yeah, you need a sound bite. Yeah. Anyway, so that is something, tellingly, we don't do that during sex. Well, most of us, we do it when we want sex. Like we'll take pictures of ourselves naked and send them to other people, trying to like entice extreme passion that's like undeniable and will transport the receiver of the sex beyond themselves, and like in theory, either they'll whack off or like they'll get in the car and come over and fuck us.
Mm-hmm.
Sexting. But when we're actually having sex on one, it's one of the few moments left in life where like people
not
don't
taking
stop
pictures.
and take pictures of it. Yeah, which is great. I don't.
I
want
hope
sex
I'm
to
not
have-
around when
I know.
that's the thing.
Well, I don't want sex to have shame. I mean, my whole purpose of this is like to de-shame it. But like by de-shaming it, it would be really sad. If we
Be like,
each-
I'm live podcasting.
I know. This is like my sex Instagram account.
You
Where,
would
like,
get so many
everyone-
followers.
You see?
Thank God. I think that's like the only area we haven't crept in socially. Because I think there's
Right.
there's
That's the
censorship bans.
kind
You'd have to whole new platform for that. I'm sure there's like a live streaming sex monthly fee subscription.
definitely, yeah. But like, there is definitely a voyeuristic tendency in real life now, where we would rather watch it than live it, unconsciously.
Even with
right?
relationships, that you feel like you have like a relationship with someone you've been friended or whatever on Instagram, and then you meet them in real life, and you feel like you know them. You don't know anything about
Oh
them.
yeah. You feel you know them,
And that's freaked me out too, because I've like put my parents' pets on my Instagram, and somebody I met at a bar is like, "Oh, I follow you, I know you," and they drop my parents' pet's name, and I'm like, "Shit, this is like that whole
Yeah,
aspect
me
of
too.
like."
I run into people who know me exclusively from Instagram.
Yeah, and I mean, it creeps me out, but I also participated in it because I'm posting all this stuff and I'm very active in that. But I mean, it's that false sense of a familiarity.
I've had a couple of
and-
romances, the people who reached out to me on
I've had
Instagram
some-
who I
yeah.
didn't know and met. We had, which is okay, which is okay, so long as it like stays out of the camera. I feel like so long as it stays out of the Instagram place.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm
It's all
not physically
shared.
like I'm not really one to do the sexy filter Instagram story like Philly face
I'm
filter.
with so and so.
Yeah, and, yeah. I'm not really.
Kissy, kissy. We
It's
just met.
my
but kissy,
camera's usually
kissy.
turned the other way or whatever I'm looking at, and I mean, that's a whole. I don't know if it's like a generational thing, but I'm not really on board with doing that on my own accord. I'm not getting DMs for that kind of thing. That's not my bag. I don't know. I feel like I don't know, you're selling so much of like your practice and everything else. Like I like to keep at least like family stuff, or even who I'm dating, that's never on there. That's like, I feel like this is your magazine, your business card. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like the data is owned by so many people that like I really don't have any desire for someone at a bar to know my parents' pet's name, who my boyfriend is. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, no, I
So-
agree with you.
So
I
like there
support
are,
that,
I
but-
do post a lot, but it's really the personal stuff really isn't there. So
yeah.
like,
Yeah, me
you-
too. I don't post.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone really knows. I'm extremely private in my sex life, partly because as a feminist, I just don't like being claimed, and that has in fact ruined quite a few relationships, because sooner or later the partner will want it to be known, and I don't want to be identified as his whatever girlfriend, whatever it is. So partly because of that, for political reasons, because woman has always been the chattel, of the man she is sleeping with or has to sleep with. And before that, it's the father, and then the father gets replaced by the husband or what other male is closest to her, to whom she belongs. And, until very recently, women, most of the world couldn't own property, couldn't have a bank account, all of that stuff. So it's just so recent to me that I don't like that feeling at all. So that's why I keep it private. It's not out of sense of shame or discretion, because I really wouldn't care less. But in heteronormative relationships, I feel strongly that I don't want to, be seen that way, because that's still how the world interprets it, And I think that makes the relationship or the sex more sacred and more special, because it's in its own world that is not vulnerable to gossip and attack and labels and diminishing by everybody who is like watching. So it gives it more of a chance.
Yeah,
which is hard, to keep a relationship alive and going today with all the distractions and all all the possibilities of new supply, new meat, new
fresh
names.
meat.
Yes,
Miami's pretty.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's so
pretty
easier.
shameless about that too. It's just.
Yeah.
I mean, you go down to happy hour in Brickell, and it is very much next batch.
Well, we
Men
get
are
a
older
lot of good-looking girls.
Yes.
Which is nice. I mean, I appreciate looking at them, but we got a lot compared to an average place. Yeah. And we got a lot of narcissists too. So, and kind of well-off capitalists who are eager to, mingle with the youth. Yeah. So, and that's an interesting, that's another interesting thing. I don't know if we have time, but I'm very interested in the ex-Soviet republics.
Just bounce that in the last minute.
I know.
See how do you
in the last minute.
go?
But I know. Because I'm interested in it as someone who's very attuned to spiritual life, which is not the same necessarily as religious or Christian life, but spiritual life, right? And so what communism did, it made it illegal. Marxism, Leninism, and the philosophy made it illegal to believe in God or a God. And then there were 2 or 3 generations that basically only believed in materialism, right? As socialist materialism, which means materials, which means capital, which means capitalism. So the whole thing became one and the same. So when Soviet communism broke up and the Soviet Union broke up, and people were able to kind of share our culture, I think they found themselves, liking that spiritual facility and habit. So they embraced commercialism and capitalism head on, almost like a religion, almost like a faith. And again, I'm generalizing extremely. So this is not about an individual, but at the cultural level, it's very instructive to me, seeing how they deal with their bodies and each other, and the world. It's very instructive to me as a potential atheist.
A what?
I could be an atheist, but one of the reasons I'm not is precisely that I think we
potential
need.
Atheist.
Yes.
I like that. That's good.
That the spiritual life, a spiritually enriched life, whatever name, we give it could be anything, right, is actually a great counterbalance to, the impoverished, exchange of material energy solely as a way to be sexual or intimate or together with each other.
That's interesting, because I was talking with somebody yesterday about how that plays a role in what you are as an artist, playing into the capital machine and the hierarchy of where artists lie in, let's say, like even just with your income, and like where changing the conversation of art as not a luxury but a necessity, and a culture indicator of where we are today. And they were talking about Cuba, how artists are the top bracket of the it's kind of like the reverse pyramid of here, of where artists are in that scale. And I just found it so interesting of like where you find like the commerce of your work, how does that play into that whole thing? Like obviously we want to make work because we have to make a living, but like where does that play for like the rest of society of like, do I need a piece by you? Like where, how important is that? And it becomes like this measure of materiality of like who's in your collection and like who are you giving your work to. So I just find like that whole trajectory of thought is really interesting, and figuring out where you are not only spiritually but like within your practice. So like, can you have a soulless practice? You're potential atheist. No. You're like, it's just not. I mean, like there's soul in every. So it's like it's impossible. Exactly. So it's really difficult because there's the duality of business person versus, I hate to say creative because creative encompasses like other. I would just say artist versus business person, and how that intersects when you're thinking about spirituality. Can you do that? Like, is that possible? Like, how do you have ethical exchange? And like there's been what was the big thing of the Whitney Museum that they're protesting, Sackler with the opioids.
The Sackler.
So it's like all of this, the money comes from somewhere.
Money
is
like immoral. Yeah, I mean, money is amoral, which in real life translates into immoral.
But it's difficult because it's a position of privilege to say I'm not going to show my work in the Whitney because of this person. As an artist, you have to take opportunities to show your work, and you don't necessarily get solicited from everybody. So I really don't know what the right answer is. It's obviously like protest these things, but it's like you trace most money is dirty. And it's like, how are you going to navigate that? If this, I don't know. Like right now, art is a great little tax haven for, all of these.
And money laundering too. So that helps especially the top sellers.
Well, I haven't sold these people,
but I feel like for me, I never think of it in terms of selling it. I think that most artists make art because they have to, and if we could do something else and make money, we would, but we literally can't. Those who can do, and you see how their art becomes commerce quickly, and power to them. But I'm just saying, I don't think that often it's a choice.
I see a lot of that here.
I miss the
collaboration,
days of patronage, because in the old world, like in Greece, like in Cuba, the artist and the writer are highly respected. They may not be wealthy, but like the people look up to them.
And that's what I was talking about with the societal.
Like he's an artist. There is a lot of status, even if there is no wealth. Right here, it neither exists because here wealth brings status. But. That's just like the American experiment because people come from everywhere to make money. It's the reason of America's, like, it's a bank of the world. So we gather up here to like make more money than we would have made in our countries and be a little more free. But I think that for the artist, the true art has to be divorced from like the consciousness of whether or not it will ever be sold or collected or all that bullshit, and I think that most of the time, if it does get recognized, it's by happenstance. It's like an accident, luck of the draw, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. Like true romance, it's just the gods smile on you or whatever, wink, and give you the good and the bad because it always comes together. But again, what we were saying in the beginning, I think that art, like, sex, like other, like spiritual practice is one of those things that is separated from like making money, and and if it does, it's just because it does, right? And then that way it stays real. And that's why there is like patronage. And then the question is, do you get to pick and choose your patrons?
There's so many.
And, yeah, there's so many.
So many suitors.
And yeah, no, you don't. You can't, but you can speak truth and say, oh, I just realized that that's how he made his money and we should at least be aware of it. But beyond that, that's all we can do is just recognize that, those pills are made by that family. And that's that's the extent of it, is knowledge, saying it and sharing it. Yeah. Anyway, well, I think we've extended beyond our time, and we could keep going
Wow.
and going. I don't know if we talked about sex per se, but we talked about all things sexual.
Oh, we can continue.
Well, I don't know what John thinks. So, yeah. I feel that the body's in the middle of all of this, and ignored, that the body's in the middle of all these exchanges of money and time and likes and importance and happiness, but we don't acknowledge it. We treat it as if it's not us. Yeah, right. So, but it's right in the middle of it all, and it's really loaded. And the more aware we're of it, the more healthy we can be and healed. Otherwise, it is the body that will take the refuge. The stress, the pressure of all of this experience of daily life that we've talked about for the past hour. So, like, liberate the body by acknowledging it and giving it a moment and respecting it and embracing it and, like, touching it and, nourishing it. Yeah.
Self-care is important, especially like reflective. I mean, I'm alone sitting in silence, listening to music, just listening to myself. So that's like a huge part of the studio practice. I mean, you're just, I don't know any other profession that you're just like that, like focused in. You've got X amount of time and you can use that to dedicate whatever your mind capacity can handle. And I think that if you're not in a healthy place, it's a really difficult profession to do because you're not hiding from yourself. And if you're physically, like I do pretty large scale works, like that takes a toll on the body after a while, and you kind of have to listen to it. And my work kind of responds to how much care am I taking of myself? Am I taking that time? And I think that's so crucial. And the work like definitely reflects that. I mean, do you agree?
Absolutely. And I think everybody out there, no matter what work they do, this is useful. It's good practice. It's good advice. Okay, well, we're going to conclude, even though we could go on endlessly, and we'll pick up again next Friday. Thank you for coming, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting me as your sex whisperer. And we'll be back next Friday with Speak Sex. Ciao.